So I have the pleasure of having Braxton Haulcy with me today. He is the executive director of the Walker West Music Academy. So Braxton, thank you so very much for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Catherine. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
asking me.
Thank you so much. And so sometimes I like to make the connection for my listeners about the topic that we're talking about and how it's related to this platform of finance and affirmations. And so, of course, on the affirmation side, we all want and need affirming in some way in our lives, socially, as well as personally. And so I know that music affirms us in many ways, personally, socially, etc. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then also just very practically on the financial side, the opportunities that we may have to earn dollars, in the music industry. And as well as that whole affirming and the cognitive strengthening and all of that, that may give us the ideas and the creativity to also create and earn dollars for ourselves. So just wanted to take a second to make that connection. I know that Walker West's Music Academy was created in 1988 by Carl Walker and Grant West. So can you tell me a little bit about them, who they were, and what their mission and vision was for the Walker West Music Academy?
Yes, certainly. What a lot of people don't realize is that in 1988, when Walker West started, it was the beginning of the crack cocaine epidemic. And it started in Rondo neighborhood. And there was a lot of shootings and killings, and kids were right in the midst of all of that. And so I always say Reverend Walker and Grant West were like superheroes. They just kind of flew in and said, hey, this is a cultural desert, and we're going to do something to get the kids off the street. And so by doing that, they were able to start the school, and they gave free lessons. They had two pianos, and the kids came. And so it was about, bringing music as a life affirming uh, value and engaging learning and engaging in the African American cultural tradition.
Just tell me a little bit about for you. You're the executive director of this program. How has music changed your life? How has it benefited you personally?
Yes, when I was a second grader, I was a DNF student, and they talked to my mom and asked her to hold me back. But my mom enrolled me in piano lessons, and I went from D's and F's to A's in a year. And I graduated from college on the dean's list. So I'm a true believer that teaching music changes lives, and it really engages you in learning. And that's the mission that I have at Walker West. I believe that every child should have music in their lives, regardless of their demographics.
And so, as you talk about demographics, I know that Walker West is steeped in the African American music tradition. Do you have students of all nationalities, or is it mainly African American students that you teach?
Oh, that's a good question, because when we started in 1988, we had all Black students. And what evolved was that we had a unique way of teaching not only classical, but gospel, jazz, blues, and contemporary. And so students from across the Twin Cities started to come and learn this music because they couldn't get it over at McPhail. And so what has evolved was, 100% African American. Now it's about 45% African American because everybody wants to learn the secret sauce.
Okay. And so, as we talk about music and its benefits to us, why does music matter for our health and well-being?
Well, the brain is like a muscle, and you have to work out to keep that muscle in good shape. And whenever you learn music and whenever you're taught music, it's like taking a brain workout because you're working both the left frontal lobe, which is the analytics and the syncopation and the counting, and then you're working the right frontal lobe, which is the creative, it's the language, and all of those things combined into one. And so if you do that every day, your brain gets a good workout. Or if you do it even a couple of times a week, it gets a good workout. And so the brain is just important for everything from mental health to academics to all of those things. And music is the key. And I think a lot of times people think, well, music is nice to have. And I almost hate the word enrichment, because enrichment implies it's a nice to have, but it's actually a need to have, and it's foundational. Music is reading, it's writing, it's arithmetic, but most of all, it's art, because it allows us to express emotion and humanism. And so that's what makes music, so powerful as a tool. And what we've done at Walker West, when I first came to Walker West, we only taught school-age kids. And, I said to myself, well, music is beneficial to everyone. So we should have the babies in there learning music, and we should have the elders in there learning music. And for the babies, that early childhood music, it really pushes brain development and impulse control. But then when you take it all the way on the other end of the age spectrum to the elders, music is healthy aging of the brain. And so, we have a dementia-friendly choir called the Amazing Grace Chorus. And you can see the healing power of music when they perform. They have a nurse that comes in and they do some exercises and they start singing and dancing. And you can see the power of music right there, the healing power right before your eyes. And so that's, really how music just basically, helps us out with our mental state. It also, listening to music for myself, I think better when I have some Miles Davis on. It just makes me more cerebral. And then the other thing about music is that learning music builds confidence. And when you build confidence, you feel good about yourself. It builds, if you play in a group, it builds teamwork. It builds determination and tenacity. And those are all life skills, which are very, very useful for succeeding in life. And so I always tell people, a lot of folks think, well, take music. I'm not going to become a musician. That's not my goal in life. And I said, well, we teach music at Walker West. We're not trying to get Grammy award-winning musicians. We want Grammy award-winning humans. And we know that music brings you to that humanism that's so important.
That is a wonderful explanation. And so let's dig in a little deeper into some of that. So one of the questions I had that you've kind of answered was the question of, is just listening to music, does it have the same benefits, or do you have to be playing an instrument or thinking about constructing and creating music?
I would say both. And that's one of the reasons why, when I first came to Walker West, we were struggling financially, and a funder came to me and said, you need to bring music to Walker West. You need to have a music performance at Walker West. And that was kind of like the last thing I was thinking about. I was trying to see how am I going to pay bills. But I took a step back and I thought about it. And I said, we have some of the best musicians in town, if not in the country. I mean, they're playing on people's albums. They're playing in all the jazz venues. And I said, we can leverage that. And so with that, I came up with this concept of the Rondo Community Music Series. And I went back and I studied the Rondo neighborhood. And what I found was that prior to I-94 intersecting the whole community, it was a thriving Black middle-class neighborhood. And they had social events, they had cultural events, they had theater, they had all of those things that were enmeshed in that neighborhood. And with I-94, it destroyed all of that. And so my theme in putting together the Rondo Community Music Series, okay, we're going to bring back the social and cultural boom back to the Rondo neighborhood with music. And so I think the first year we had in 2019, we had a capacity of about 100 people that could come. We had 200 people off in that place. And if the fire marshal would have came in there, they would have took us all away. But people were just enjoying, just listening. You could see the joy on their face. And so, we did that in 2019. And of course, in 2020, COVID happened. and we had to be creative and we had to reinvent ourselves. And so we started streaming it. And I wasn't a believer in Facebook and social media. But our first concert that we streamed was King, and that was Paris Struthers and Amber Struthers, who were students of Reverend Walker. I didn't know they had performed with Prince, and they were Grammy Award winning producers. And of course, they weren't doing any gigs and they weren't making any money. So I called them up and asked them if they would perform. And I said, but you got to give me the Walker West discount, because I know if they perform with me, that would be like 50,000. I said, how about 5,000? And they did it. And when we streamed it, we had 23,000 views across the world, in 40 states and in 20 countries. And I think Sade, the singer, she knew them, and she was on the chat box chatting that up while we were on there. And I said, oh, this is big. So I guess I need to start believing in social media. But you could tell the joy of music was right there. And then at the end of 2020, I told him, hey, the series is over. This is the last performance. And everybody just kept pinging me, says, no, you can't end this, because, we need music. We really need music. And it's a good time to have music. And so I went out and tried to see if I could get some funding, but I was unable to do it, but I did it anyway. And so I carried the series to the end of February, Black History Month. But you could tell that people really wanted to be able to hear that music, and that the joy of music that this was bringing to their lives.
Wow, that is wonderful. I love how you took that suggestion and created something that was beautiful and something that continued to enrich and be beneficial to communities, and the impact that it had is actually tremendous. So can you tell us a little bit about, I love that you said you had the choir for the
Dementia friendly choir.
Dementia friendly choir. So that addresses the elders. And so what are you doing with the youth and then the babies? Is it strictly the instruction? Are they also performing? What's happening with those age groups?
Well, we do it all except for the babies. We let the babies play on the instruments and we sing to them. It's almost like singing is almost like, reading to your child, how important that is. Singing does the same thing. And then we let them experiment and discover on instruments. And then we have a summer music camp that we've been doing for about 20 years. And it gives kids ages from 5 to 12 the opportunity to learn 5 different instruments in 3 weeks. And so I think they learn vocals, piano, brass, woodwinds. We got digital music in there now. And there was something else. We used to have violin in there, but violin has split itself off. So they'd learn a string instrument. And so that gives them a chance to explore these different instruments. And then at the very tail end, they have to do a recital on all 5 instruments. So that really gives them a good chance to experiment and discover different instruments. And then hopefully they come out of the camp and they say, oh yeah, I want to take violin, or no, I want to take piano. So that's one of the things that we do. And of course, we always have performances. We have recitals, and then we have 5 youth jazz ensembles. And so they go out, they've been playing at Orchestra Hall. I think one of them opened up for Wynton Marsalis at Orchestra Hall in about 2 months ago when he was in town. And they're all over. They play at the Selby Avenue Jazz Fest, the Twin Cities Jazz Fest, and they're in demand. I mean, we have an adult ensemble as well. And then our dementia-friendly choir, Amazing Grace, they perform, and they're definitely in demand. They just did a TPT special. They won the Minnesota Board of Aging grant, and so they've been in the news. NPR and some other news outlets. So yeah, we teach, we perform, and then the thing that I'm doing right now, that's my favorite project, but it's the one I'm struggling with the most, is the digital music production class. And the way I look at that, I used to sell displays at General Mills, at Target and Walmart and all of that. And we'd sell an end cap. An end cap is a traffic builder, right? You walk up and you see this beautiful end cap. You walk up and you pick up a product, because that's a consumer behavior, right? And then you pick up the product, and then you walk in the aisle, and then you pick up another product. And so the way I look at digital music, it's like the end cap. Some of the youth and teenagers, especially, um, they may not. You ask them, do you want to play a violin? They say, oh, what a no, I'm not interested. But if you say, oh, you want to create your own beats and have your lyrics and run your lines on there and do some riffs here and do that, I say, oh wow, that sounds really interesting. And so my thing is to get them interested in music through technology. And then once they get in and they get hooked and they decide they really like it, and I said, well, you know what? If you're going to really get good at this, you're going to have to learn how to play guitar. You might learn how to play drums. You might learn how to play this. And so it's kind of like the end cap where you walk in, you pick up a product, then you walk into the aisle and you pick up the other product, and the other product is a musical instrument. And so that's my favorite program right now, but it's the most challenging because it's the most, you really have to meet those students where they are, and then you have to bring them in. And engage them. So that's kind of the challenge that we have right now, but we're working on it.
Okay, and so tell me, let's dig a little bit deeper on that one. So the digital music, so is it them like on their computers creating music? Like what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, they have digital audio workstations, and so they would come in and they have instructors. The instructors may show them some ways to use technologies to create certain drum beats, to create certain riffs, to create certain type of orchestrations, notations, things of that sort. And then they can experiment and create their own music on the digital audio stations. And the audio station has keyboards and everything else on it.
Okay, so then that's something that they come to your center for then, right?
Yeah, they can.
And so one of the things that I'm looking at here, so it says that there was a study that showed that music shows promise to improve students' self-efficacy, belief in their own capabilities, and how it like boosters, I guess, their self-concept and their self-esteem. And so how have you seen that at work in the students that you interact with?
Well, all you have to do is see Grant West, one of our co-founders, work with kids, and it's amazing. He'll sit down with them for the first time and he'll say, by the end of this lesson, you will know how to play a song. And he'll play Hot Cross Buns or the Knuckle Song or something like that, and he'll work with the kids. And at the end of the session, they can go play Knuckles. They can play their songs and say, and then you see, he says, Braxton, they're going to go to their friends and say, look what I can do. I can play the Knuckle Song, or I can play Hot Cross Buns, and I only had one lesson. And so, that's one of the ways that we build, that confidence is we make something easy and we show it. And then, one of the ways that we teach, we do as much ear training as we do note training. And you'll hear Grant talk about ear to eye and eye to ear. We have a method called play to learn. And we feel that as a good musician, you should be a good listener and you should be able to catch the music with your ear. And then they'll play something and then they say, now you play it without notes. And then they have to play it. And then eventually we'll put the notes there. But we want them to be a good listener because if you're a good ear, if you have a good ear and you can read the notes, then that just raises your level of musicianship.
That's an interesting point that you make. One of the things that I will share is that my dad was a musician. He played the lead guitar.
Okay.
And so I had the opportunity to hear him with his band. And one of the things that he struggled with, though, is that he could not read music. He did play everything by ear. And so I think in some ways that was limiting for him. So it encourages me that you are, of course, challenging them to learn how to read music as well and put the notes with it, but bolstering the importance of being able to also play by ear. And so I mean that's affirming to me. My father is deceased, but I know it affirms him still.
Yep. And it should affirm any musician because playing by ear means you really have to capture emotions. So if you read notes off of paper, it's all technical.
Mhm.
And there's some people that they just have phenomenal technical skills, but you can't feel their music.
Mm.
And when you listen and you're ear trained, you're gonna hear something that you're not gonna hear from somebody that just reads from notes. And when you can do them both, you're really good. I mean, I think I went to a performance at Sundon Hall not too long ago, and the pianist, she was a Russian pianist, and she didn't have any notes in front of her, but I know she was reading, she had done the score and everything, but you could tell she had done some ear training too, because you could just feel, even though it was classical music, it was like you could feel her soul playing through that music, and it was just touching. And it was technically good, but you could feel the emotions in the music, and that's the secret sauce that we have at Walker West. Reverend Walker, when he was teaching, he might say, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. You got all the notes, but you got to put some soul in it. We got to hear something. You got to put something in it. You got to put, it can't just be notes." And so I have a lot of respect for musicians, and actually I'm taking lessons now, and I'm trying to convert from being a note reader to really listening and being an ear reader. I have William Duncan, Debbie Duncan's brother, teaching me, and I'm learning all kind of tricks. But he just says, "No, Braxton, no notes. You can just watch me play, and then you got to pick it up." And it's really a skill. It's a really good skill.
Wow, I feel the presence of my father as an ancestor in the building, how this affirms him. And so as we think about say musical genres, are there any genres that are better than the other, or does all music help and stimulate?
I'd say all music helps and stimulates. And I guess the key thing, and one of the ways that we teach, when you come to Walker West, we're not going to sit down and say, "Okay, you're going to learn this Bach and Beethoven." We'll ask, like, for instance, say Winton. You say, "Winton, what do you want to learn?" "I want to learn some Beyonce." "Okay, well, let's play some Beyonce." And so we'll start playing some Beyonce, and he'll pick it up with the ear, and then he'll pick up the notes and everything. And so we want to, you want students to learn the music that they can be engaged in, and still we're going to still throw in a little Bach, a little Beethoven, a little Frank Sinatra, but we're going to let you start with the stuff you want to do first, because we know if you're motivated to learn, you'll pick up the rest of the stuff.
I love that. And I love that it centers on what they want to be engaged in. And also that, we're throwing in the Bach and the Beethoven as supplemental, and not like focusing on that as that's
Right.
the only way, or those are the classics, as if the music that is created in the African American tradition is not considered classical. So I love that. And so then tell me just a little bit, you kind of alluded to it. I think it's about feeling. Why is it important, or why was it important for Walker and West for their music academy to be steeped in the African American tradition?
Well, they realized the importance of music, especially in Black kids' life. And they realized the whole history of music. I mean, from slavery and on, we got through the day singing songs. Music made us resilient. Music is provided the music we needed when we needed to protest. And they understand how important music is, especially to Black children. And so right now, in the state of Minnesota, I think we have the second largest. I don't want to call it achievement gap, because that's deficit language. I want to call it opportunity gap in the country. And because I had that experience with my childhood of being a DNF student, I'm a true believer that teaching music changes lives. And the best way to engage many of these Black students is through music, to engage learning through music, because it's in our DNA, call and response. That's in our DNA. It's from the church to everything we do. I mean, and if, I gave that example of Grant teaching, teaching this first song, "I'm gonna play, now it's your turn," call and response. And so if you engage students, they'll learn better. And I believe that if you have music in schools, and what has happened, especially in Minnesota, they still have the No Child Left Behind legacy, where music and sports was taken out of school. And so with a lot of the schools in St. Paul, the elementary and the middle schools, there's no music curriculum. And so if you're talking about closing an achievement gap and you have no music curriculum during the day, then that's a big loss. And so if there's anything that we're trying to do right now, we're doing school residencies and school partnerships so that we get out of the building and deploy our instructors into the building to bring music in those schools that don't have music, because we believe that's the way to close this opportunity achievement gap between Black and white students. And we know that music is what engages us.
That's powerful. And I read on your website and some of the news about Walker West that you all were looking to secure a larger facility. Why is that important? Has it happened, and where are you in that process?
I'm glad you asked. It is a process. What a process. Um, we finally have selected our general contractors. We have architects. Um, we have a lobbyist now, so I'm dealing with politicians. Um, and yeah, it is a process. And we're going to raise like probably $1.2 million by the end of this month. For the whole building right now, we haven't gotten there. We just hired the general contractor, but the estimate is like 8.2 million for just the facility. Um, and I'm calling it a destination and resource because we want people to see it as a destination. We're going to have a world-class performance hall. We'll have a couple of rehearsals. We'll have lots of digital stuff for the kids, digital music stations. It'll be state-of-the-art technology where we still have about 20% of our students that like to do online. So we'll continue to do online. And yeah, it'll give us more space. But the big thing to me, a lot of times people get all enamored about the brick and mortar and the building. But why do you need a building? You need building to expand programs. You need building to expand capacity, all of those type of things. And so I keep trying to tell people, okay, all right, it's a building, but we need about $6 more million for program expansion and capacity building because that's, we got to fill up the building. And so our hope is to move into the building in 2024. We got a bill that will be coming up. We put a bill in this to the state last year, but Republicans and Democrats weren't getting along, so that bill didn't get passed. So this year we got 3 chambers of DFLs. It better get through now. Okay.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. But
So you were saying that it's not just about the building. So are you building onto or renovating an existing building, or are you
yeah,
creating your own building?
we're renovating an existing building. Wilder Foundation had a Center for Aging building that they vacated in 2020. And we actually did our summer music camp there, I think in 2020, because we wanted to have enough space to space out the kids, or actually, was it 2021? Maybe, no, it was 2020. We wanted to have a bigger space so that the kids weren't just crammed together when they did their summer camp. And the teachers loved it so much that they said, hey, we need to get this building if they're vacating it. And so we put in a purchase agreement, and we're going to close the purchase agreement in March of next year. And we already have the architects and the general contractors are working together. So as soon as we close on it, they're going to start the construction immediately.
And so is that a first for Walker West? Because I know that I believe the last building you were in, you were leasing. So it sounds like this building, you will be owning that building.
Yeah, we'll be owning this building.
Wow, that's exciting. I love to see where people of color especially are centering themselves, centering their needs, and making moves by doing the things that they need to do for their community, as well as having ownership in those things. So I just love that so much. And so tell me about, since you've been there the 4 years, tell me about a few of the success stories, whether it be from your youth or even some of the elder patients or the elder students that you have.
Well, I guess a couple of things have happened. And one thing, I'd like to put it all in the context of, when I first started at Walker West, the first person I went to talk to was Dr. Beverly Hawkins, because I had been on her board at the Model Cities of St. Paul. And the first thing she did, was stuck her finger in my face and asked me if I was a praying man. And I just kind of backed up and say, I'm going to become a praying man. And then the next day, Pastor Ralph came and gave me the sales pitch to get back into the church. And then the next day, Reverend Walker came. And then I said, something's calling me. And so one of the first things that Dr. Hawkins said is that you need to find out if they have a strategic plan. And if they don't have one, you create one. And so that was the first thing that we did. And the strategic plan, it really was a transformation of the whole organization, moving us away from just doing music lessons to school age kids to covering all generations across, all generations. And then we developed this concept called Walker West Without Walls. And it meant we get out of the building, we deploy our instructors into the school systems to teach. So especially those students that may not have the opportunity to have music. So we go to them. And so we've had a lot of success stories around the partnerships that we have currently with the Barack and Michelle Obama. They make you pronounce the whole name. Elementary school, and then St. Peter Claver Elementary School. And then we're hoping to get into Promise Neighborhoods, Benjamin E. Mays, and Maxfield schools next year. And so we're expanding that. And then, some of our students have went on to, some of the top jazz schools, some of the top music schools as they've graduated. We had one student that performed at Carnegie Hall with, I can't remember, there's this master violinist, and her name, it just blanks me right now, but she performed with that master violinist at Carnegie Hall. So we have a lot of successful stories. And I was talking about Paris and Amber Struthers, who were Grammy Award winning students that were taught by Reverend Walker. So we have all of that. And it's, Walker West is a family. It's a family environment. It's an encouraging environment. The kids play, everybody's going to hoop and holler and clap and encourage them. And if they miss some notes, we're going to clap some more. And it's that type of environment that makes, it's not an intimidating environment, because sometimes when you're learning music and you have to perform in front of people, it's very intimidating. But if you have people there egging you on and clapping and Grant West will be the one yelling the loudest, "Oh, that was just wonderful!" And you have those type of things. You have students that really come out with a lot of confidence and feel good about themselves.
Well, I will obviously drop the link to your website in our show notes. But if there are persons out there, our listeners who are in the Twin Cities area and they want to participate, what's the best way that they can get in contact with you?
They can call our general number, and I'll put that number out here, 651-224-2929, and speak with Marie Flowers, who's the student service manager. She'll set up trial lessons and get you into the system to take lessons. Also, if you want to do it, if you want to reach out to us online, we have info@walkerwest.org, and you can inquire about lessons that way. We do all instruments, and we do voice. And Libby Turner, who used to be our first vocal teacher and was one of the original members of the Sounds of Blackness, have come back from Seattle, and she's building up that vocal department in a big way. So we're doing voice heavy. We're doing, guitars, strings. We even have some young ladies playing the bass now. I want to see that. I like to see it. I want to see them playing in the jazz ensembles with the bass. So we're going on all cylinders with all instruments.
And so then for those who are not in the Twin Cities, how can others support you?
Well, if you're not in the Twin Cities, we're doing lessons across the country. Grant has a student in Portland, Dallas, and Atlanta. So if you want to take music lessons, we can do it online if you want to do that. And then anybody that wants to donate, I'm always taking money. I'm like, go on the website. There's a big donate button up at the homepage. Just hit that donate button and just, put in a couple of 6 or 7 digits and we good.
Well, Braxton Haulcy, it has been a pleasure talking with you about the Walker West Music Academy. My heart is full, and I appreciate you being here with us today.
Well, thanks so much, Katherine. I appreciate it.